So today what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a great technique to use alcohol inks to get a really wonderful effect. I'm going to do it step by step. Thank you to Claire Holloway, who spent quite a lot of time, a year or so ago, teaching me how to do this, because I never ever got it right. I could never get a great effect from it, and I'd seen lots of videos, but Claire Holloway really did help. And so this is the Claire Holloway technique. I'm using the alcohol inks by Let's Resin because I love their alcohol inks, and also I find they don't fade as much as any of the others. And I'm using this make of sinker. It comes in a middle sinker or a bottom sinker. I can't remember what the make is, but I will look it up and I'll put it in the link in the description for you. But this technique is really easy to work. It's easy to follow, and you will get good results with it. Now, not everyone works out, so don't feel disappointed when you've done it if all of your ones aren't exactly how you like them, because not everything always works out every time, but you will get some really pretty patterns and some great results from this. I'm going to make some donut ones because I'm obsessed with this donut mold at the moment, and I'm going to make some in my favorite jewelry mold as well. So first thing I need to do is mix up my resin, and I'm going to be using the same resin that Claire always uses as well, which is the Tea Expert Pure Glossy. I love that resin. It works exactly as it says on the bottle, and it is lovely and glossy. I've made sure my molds are nice and clean before I do anything else, and now I'm going to mix up my resin. It's a 1-to-1 resin, and I'm not going to need a great deal for the amount that I'm doing. So I'm going to mix up 150 ml, so that should be enough for me. I've marked my jug, so when I pour it, I know which line to work on, because these lines tend to disappear when you pour resin. Let's get my mask on and my gloves, because we want to make sure that we are really safe. So I've got my resin mixed up now, and what I'm going to do is slowly pour this in to each of these molds. Because the center part of this donut mold doesn't go right to the top, I'm sure you can get one where it does, but I'm going to have to look for one, I think. Although I don't want my pendants to be that thick anyway, so I'm pouring this in just below where that top is. Now, I know a lot of people do the Petri effect and alcohol ink effect, but Claire developed her own method, and it works really well. And she developed it over several months, and I was very appreciative that she shared it with me, and she never minds me sharing it with you either. And now what I'm going to do is fill up my favourite ones of this jewellery mould almost to the top. I never seem to use this demold with the 2 holes in it. Does anyone use that one? I bet it comes out really lovely, but I never seem to. What I like about this mold, it's slightly deeper than most of the other molds that you can get to make jewelry. So you get that little bit more depth on it when you're using alcohol inks. And it is a really good quality mold. I use this, I can't think how many times I've used this mold now. I don't know who it's made by. Again, I can't remember. So I'll have to look that up for you. Let's do a little circle as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that for about 3 or 4 minutes just to allow any bubbles that may have mixed in there to come up. I didn't actually put it in my Airless Pro. I should have done that, I think, first. But there we go. I forgot. I normally do. And then once those bubbles have come up, I can burn them off, and then I can start showing you how to add your alcohol inks. So what I'm going to do now is I've burnt that off because they've been sitting for 5 minutes, and I'm going to be using complementary colours, because the last thing I want to do is end up with a muddy mess, and that is what I always used to have a problem with before. I don't know if you've seen before. Now what Claire suggests is that you put your alcohol inks, and it really does work, it's worth doing, on the edges of your mould like that. So that was a green, and now I'm going to use a yellow green as well. So I'm going to put a drop there and a couple of drops next to this like that. And then add your sinker to the gaps rather than just flooding it with sinker. And now I'm going to put some drops in the middle and then let it do its thing. I love watching it do its thing. I'm also going to be using a darker colour on some. So this is the coffee. It's not quite a black, it's a coffee colour. And I really like that. I don't know whether it's going to come out. As you know, I probably haven't said this for a while. I'm colorblind, so I find it really difficult to know what colors go with which, because half the time I'm not really sure what colors I'm using unless I read it on the bottle. So that was a blue. And for this one, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to put my white in like this. And then I'm going to add some of this silver alcohol ink just on the top, because this is quite heavy and sometimes it can sink a long way. It may do it exactly the same this time, but I put it on top of the white to hopefully stop it sinking right the way through. And then I'm going to put some white on top of that and see what happens. Now I'm using an orange and let that spread out, and a yellow, and I want a red in that, because red, yellow and orange I do know go well together. But drop there and a drop there. And because I haven't really got much space there or gaps there for the white, I'm going to put the white in the middle. And then again, let that do its thing. And that is red on its own, because sometimes the colours look really nice when they're done on their own. It's just, it always amazes me how beautiful the patterns look when they start to swirl. And this one, I'm just going to do a deep coffee in the middle, some drops of the white, and then for this one I'm going to add a bit of the gold as well, and I'm going to do an orange one here, and I'm being very gentle as well for the amount that I'm putting in. I'm not flooding it. I pierced the tops of these bottles with a pin so that the drops I could control, because that was my other trouble before. I cut the tops off, and then as a result I was putting in far too much alcohol ink. And again, that was just filling those molds up and causing them to be really, really full and muddy. Let me show you what I mean by that. So this is a new bottle. I get a needle like that or a pin, get it in the center and push it right the way through. And that's a big enough hole for me. Now I'm going to try with 3 different color blues. They don't look any different to me, but perhaps people who are not colorblind will be able to notice. So I've got a sapphire blue here, which is the one I just opened. I've got a midnight blue, and I've got a blue, just a normal blue like that. No, but I've got an azure blue. Again, I'm opening that with just a needle. Let's have a look and see if that's any different color. And now I'm going to fill my gaps with some white, and we'll let that do its thing. Well, I've got all those now filled, and I need to gently move them to one side while I do these. Now, these are going to be slightly different because I've got edges around the edge and also in the middle. So what I'm going to do is try putting some around the edges of the middle like that, and then some around the edges of the outside, and see what happens. And I'm using an orange and a yellow here, and now I'm going to add my white and leave that to do its thing. And then the last one in this, I am going to try and use the colours that don't really work well together. So I'm going to use a bit of blue, a bit of red, a bit of green, and a bit of yellow. And then add my white on top of that. It's quite warm in here today, so I'm not going to do anything with these for 35 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes and then check on them. And then once I've checked on them, if it needs another 5 more minutes before I do the next stage, then I can just time it for 5 more minutes. Well, these have had the 30 minutes now, so I'm just going to tap them and see what they're like. Yeah, and that is ready after 30 minutes because it's gone really nice and thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this little silicone tool here, and I'm going to go in there right to the bottom and give these a swirl. Now, what I don't want to do is over swirl them, because that was always my problem before as well. I would over swirl them. Also, I'm going to wipe the tip of this using a baby wipe, then a paper towel afterwards to make sure the tip is clean. And because this is silicone, this is not going to do any damage to this mold. I'm going to lift that out delicately like that and then wipe the end. And I'm not doing the same pattern in each one. What I'm going to do is what I think should happen. And by leaving it for the 30 minutes or the 45 minutes if it's a cold day, the resin is thick and the pattern that you're putting in will stay where you want it. It's a shame you can't really see what the pattern is that you're doing until you've finished. And this is where you might get patterns that you don't like, you might get colours that you don't like, all sorts of things can happen, but you will get some really positive results from this. Maybe not all of them, but you will get a large number of them. And practice makes perfect as well. The more you do it, the more you'll get to know your resin, the more you'll get to know how your alcohol inks respond to what you're doing. I don't think I've missed any, because that is quite possible for me to do as well. So let's move those over to there and let those cure up. Now these are slightly different again because they've got the hole in the middle. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to go round the outside one like that and then work my way into the middle. Again, I'm going to go around the outside like that and then work my way into the middle. Now, these aren't quite cured up. They still are soft, so there will be a little bit of movement happening, but not a lot. And this is the one with all the multicolours in, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Whether they stay separated and they look pretty, or it just ends up like a load of muddy mess. So I'm going to leave these overnight to cure up. Once they're cured up, then we can have a look at them. Well, these are all cured now, and I'm a little bit nervous. I always am when I'm demolding something like this. And look, I did miss one. I said I would. I always seem to. So that's the one I missed. So we'll have a look at that one last. I can't wait to look at these ones in the donut mold. Look how pretty that has come out. They're not as good as the ones that Claire does. Hers are amazing. And there is a little bit of Petri in there that's come out beautiful. And there is a swirl. Oh, I like that one. That's got a real ethereal look to it. And the white has sunk quite well in that one. And there's a lot more Petri in that one. I don't think I'm quite firm enough when I'm twisting them. Maybe I need to be a little bit firmer. Oh, that looks really pretty. That's like a spiral to it. That's like a little helix in there. Look how glossy that is. I used the metallic in this one, and that has given that a lovely sparkle. Again, another darker one. That one's come out pretty. So far, I'm loving them all. Being very lucky with these. They've all come out really pretty so far. And now for the donut ones. I can't wait to see whether this one worked. That's the multicoloured one, and that has not gone muddy at all. And that is because I left it 30 minutes before doing the twist. There's not much Petri in that one, though. Well, there's a little bit more in that, as you can see down in this bottom bit. That's lovely too. And that one's come out really pretty too. There's quite a bit of Petri happening in that one. Overall, successful, which is unlike me. I normally get at least 1 or 2 complete disasters. The one with the multicolours has worked out really, really well. And that is all about leaving it that extra bit of time. I'm very pleased with those. And it just goes to show a little bit of practice and a little bit of know-how really makes a massive difference when you're using alcohol inks and trying to get some sort of results. Look at that one there. It looks like it's got a little shell in it there, the way the alcohol inks have gone. Check out the video I've got coming up next. If you want to learn more about alcohol inks and how to use them, you'll really enjoy that one. Boot that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye.